Hello, I'm guessing you found this video because you are interested in using essential oils as magical tools, in particular, Blue Lotus for soul retrieval and or to learn about soul contracts. You may be here and particularly interested if you are a woman who perceives you may be suffering from the effects of the witch wound of being chased or maybe even executed in a former life as a witch, or particularly if you feel you may have had priestess training in the past and you may be bringing through some past life trauma around that. So, deep stuff. For those who don't know me, my name's Elizabeth Ashley. I am a secret healer. I write books about essential oils. I've written 24 books. I am the UK director of the National Association of Holistic Aromatherapists. I am a clinical aromatherapist with over 30 years clinical experience, but at the moment I'm concentrating my efforts in bringing forth the ancient teachings about how oils were used religiously, spiritually, mystically, and of course, magically. Now, in this lecture, we will be talking about soul retrieval, and I am very excited to be joined by a fellow Blue Lotus initiate, a sacred dancer, no less. Please say hello to Katie Holland.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me.
So lovely to have you here. And I'm excited for people to learn a little bit about you because you have been working with Blue Lotus a very long time and with dance, and you've been training in sacred dance all around the world. And I'd love it if you tell people a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, I've been really lucky to study in the dances, the countries where the dances come from. So with teachers of origin, and really immerse myself as I was living in those countries, in the culture and in sort of every aspect of daily life, really. And it's a very tricky path in a way because these kind of teachers don't just accept anybody. And this happened for me, as I say, in several countries. So again and again, I connected with really beautiful and really amazing teachers who accepted me as a disciple or as an initiate of their particular dance forms. And through that learned some very beautiful dances and also a lot about myself as well. And although I didn't realize that the lotus was with me all along, because in Asia all of these classical dance styles involve dances of the lotus. So again and again I was dancing these kind of lotus stories, but didn't know at the beginning about the blue lotus, and then this came later on. That was about 5 years ago. And then I
So,
got much more involved. Yeah.
so lovely to see you do the hands of the Blue Lotus because I have been not been studying Blue Lotus as long as you have, but really immerse myself deeply into Egyptian tomb paintings, temple practices, and papyri. And more often than not, it's to do with life and death kind of mysteries, but often there are dancers involved, gamboling acrobats around the Blue Lotus. So it's lovely to come across somebody who is interested in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, dance has been my whole life. I've been dancing since I was 3, and I'm 46 now. So it's I don't really know what life is without studying some kind of dance, performing it, or just yeah, enjoying it. So it's really led me on an incredible path, which I could never have envisioned when I was a little girl, thinking I want to be a dancer, and I don't know what kind of dance. And then so many doorways have opened for me through the dances and the travel that has come with that.
So we don't want to give away too much about Blue Lotus because that's the magic we'll put behind the paywall. People can come and do that work with us. But I'm fascinated to talk about soul contracts. How did you get involved with soul retrieval through dance and through somatic movement therapy in particular?
Um, it wasn't really something that I was looking for or planned. I had a lot of experience with it in my personal healing journey through shamanic work with one of my teachers, and understanding how this had such a positive impact on my life by gathering and integrating these pieces of myself. And I think when we do such deep work for ourselves and there's no holding back in that, of course it goes into every aspect of our life. So I was then finding that as I worked with people through Awaken Belly Dance, that these same kind of themes were coming up, or people were having similar reactions, and I realized, okay, this is they're having some kind of soul retrieval. So over the years I was then able to hone it more, that I could recognize it maybe when somebody needed support with that, and that I just got to know how to yeah, just how to bring support people to bring themselves back to themselves, because I very much believe that the person needs to do it so that it's a full embodiment and sovereignty for them. It's not me doing it for them. I'm there as a giving a nudge, and move your body this way, and feel this in your body, and then they can come to the realizations themselves, and have a choice in that as well.
I love that. And I'd love to, if you'd speak a little bit more about this idea of gathering up pieces of yourself, because if people haven't done any kind of sort of shamanic work at all, they'll be like, I don't understand what that means. So, what do you understand by that?
Um, for me personally, I think I've seen it, especially because I travel so much, and the countries that I've lived in, often I've never visited them before. I've had a pull to go there, and maybe I've been dreaming about it, or I've been hearing go to Bali, move to Bali for ages, and then followed that. And I feel that it's part of that is me gathering pieces of myself from lifetimes that I've been there before, or where my ancestors have been there, and also the interactions with people. So I see it a bit like a jigsaw puzzle, that we're scattered, a bit like the Osiris story. We're scattered all over the world. And if we choose, we can find these pieces of ourselves. And often it's in places that we don't understand why, or might seem very strange, but there's some kind of resonance there. So I always follow that and feel, okay, I need to go there. So at the minute, I have two places that are really calling me, and one is Azerbaijan and one is Ladakh. And I know that there's parts for me to gather, and information as well that's going to come to me by going to those countries.
It's amazing to meet somebody who is so opposite to me from that point of view. I will do anything not to travel abroad. and and I was explaining to Katie that part of that is because I've done some past life retrieval and found that I had a past life that was terrifying because of travel. So it's interesting to see that mirrored back at me, that almost like shadow work of, right, well, this is somebody who's walking this path and they're actually doing it, and you are going to have to get on a plane sooner or later. It's amazing to see. So,
Thank
how
you.
does that feel within the body when you have those kind of things come up, and how do you identify that these may be soul contracts?
Sometimes it can be because there's a lot of emotions that are coming up in a particular place, and it could be a place within a country, and it might not be something obvious. So, of course, in Egypt, people think about the temples, and they want to go to these places and activate something, or find or heal something. But for me, it could just be I see a hill in the distance, or I think, there's a lake in this place. I need to go to that lake and I need to swim in it. And I found that water holds, obviously, it holds so much resonance and memory, collective memory in it. So going in the sea or going in lakes, or even in the rain in a certain country, I feel that this is bringing back information through the water into the body. And sometimes it could be that I burst into tears, or it could be that I have a lot of fun in a place, or I could meet somebody where it could be a 2 minute interaction, but in those 2 minutes, something in the conversation illuminates something within me, and I think, okay, that's what I came here to know. So it can be in different ways, and it can sometimes be very obvious, sometimes be very subtle, and sometimes not sure at all. And often I get dreams in places as well. So this could be before I go there, but also when I'm in the country. And this happened to me last year in Zanzibar, and it was very, very intense. I had a really strong fever for a month, and I was kind of experiencing what had happened on the ground of that bungalow that I was staying in. And then I was able to tell the owner particular information about it. And they were saying, well, how do you know this? And I said, I've been seeing it in my fever. And as that was happening, I felt that there was something about my ancestors and connected to the slave trade in that area that was being cleared.
Yeah, for sure. I do think being I was going to say delusions. That's not what I'm trying to say. When you, what's it called? When you're too hot, when you've got a fever. It's definitely almost like an out of body experience, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
and I think that also in terms of women who are going through those hot flushings when they are going through menopause as well, you get this idea of things burning through, purging through all of the time. It's a
Mm.
very healing time, even though it feels terrible to be going through it. I definitely think. Um, I'm fascinated to talk, excited, really, really excited to talk about these priestess training wounds because I'd never really thought about this before, but it makes so much sense to me. In particular, when you are studying Egypt, you'll come across particularly different priestess lineages. We'll come across lineages. The wife of the pharaoh, or sometimes like maybe the daughter of the pharaoh, will be God's wife of Amun, or in Greece, the priestesses would, and also Babylon, actually act out the passion plays where they would take on the role of the priestess and have an encounter with a god. And it
Mm.
never occurred to me really that these would be things that you could carry through to a past life. But now you've told me about it, it makes ultimate sense. So, really would love you to talk about that more.
Yeah. I guess for me, the way that I work is that anything that's popular, I look at it in the opposite way and think, well, what's the reverse or the mirror of this, and why has this certain theme, so say about being a priestess or being a goddess, it's become so popular, and how, yeah, how can I work with that, because I don't really like following these kind of trends and things. And also I feel that there's a lot about as we were speaking about this extension of playing Disney princesses as kids. And then it's, oh, I can now play being a goddess or being a priestess of Egypt or of ancient Babylon. And how that fantasy or that kind of illusionary program is so ingrained in us as kids. And then we're continuing it as adults. And is that really helpful? And so a lot of these, the priestess and priest lines, it involved sex magic, blood magic, black and white magic, if we want to think of it in that way, and making oaths and vows, allegiances to the temple or to a particular guru or to a god or goddess. And when we speak these, of course, the energy is held throughout time and space. But when our bodily fluids are involved, it's even stronger, and it really holds the soul contracts in the bloodlines. So whether it's from an ancestor or whether it's something that we were involved in ourselves, it gets held throughout space and time. And I think of it more like quantum lifetimes rather than a linear path, and how we can slide into these lifetimes and be living them all at the same time, even though we think that we're here now, but we can still be living out these these soul contracts. And often it can be about being a sexual healer, and so we're connecting with people through sex and then healing them on different levels, and maybe attracting the same kind of partners, and not really understanding why. And it can be because we've made these promises that we're going to be, yeah, healers for men or healers for women. And there were, in ancient times, in some parts of the world, there were these women, I've forgotten the name of them, but they when the men came back from war, they would have sex with them as a form of healing
They
to
were
kind of get
they
this
were
trauma. Sorry.
Geroduli or Hierodula, depending on what.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Um, so all of this really interests me, is like, well, do I want to be in this groove without really knowing why I'm following something? Or do I want to have a choice that I can step out of that and maybe still follow or learn about these teachings, but I'm not doing it because something's been imposed on me, or because of something from another point in time. I'm doing it because I'm here now and I'm really present and I'm embodied with myself, and I'm choosing to do this. And and this can take the form of many different ways. Like, as I say, with the marriage contracts with gods and goddesses, this can be very, very strong. And yeah, and the sex magic as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. When I was doing, so I should put in some background here that I am a Melissa priestess, so I'm a bee priestess, and this is an ancient lineage from the ancient Greek priestesses of Demeter core were Melissae, but also Artemis at Ephesus and Aphrodite at Eryx in Sicily. And so when I was researching my book, Meeting the Melissae, I had to obviously really delve down into these different lineages to learn about them. And one of the ways that you do that as a Melissa is to walk the path of the bee. You walk in a figure of eight with that goddess or with whatever the um, the meditation is that you're doing. And I found it very easy to work with Demeter and surprisingly with Persephone, goddess of the underworld. I thought that that would be terrifying, but I found that I could walk between those worlds very easily. Artemis is easy for me because I am a herbal healer. Artemis of Ephesus was mistress of the beasts. Again, I am always surrounded by animals. I was able to find ways into those lineages very, very easily. But Aphrodite, I could not at all. And I would always, I'd be walking the eight and I would be like, nope, nope, sorry, I got to get out here. And I do wonder if that, as a Melissa, that perhaps I have one of those contracts, particularly at Sicily, at Eric's, they're very clearly acting out the marriage rights of the bee, of the queen bee. The sailors, or I love it that the seaman climbs up to the very high temple, and the priestess would have sexual rights with these seamen. And it just amuses me every time I say it. Um, but yeah, I found all of the others easily, but that one I was like, no, no, I don't want to go in that room. No, no, that's not my place. And whether I decide in the future to go there or not is, but if somebody is really feeling that they don't want to take a step into a particular priestess lineage, and interestingly, I know a lot of the Mary Magdalene lineage is starting to believe that she was a sexual priestess, that she initiated um, Yeshua. So all of these things, if it's feeling like it's difficult to you, then this kind of work can be interesting, I would have thought. So how do we do the kind of healing for that work, Katie? What's involved in that?
Um, when I work, well, whether it's one-to-one or with groups, it's always intuitive. So we're following the energy of the person, and sometimes it can be that something needs to be danced out or kind of reenacted, but in a way that's not being emotionally involved in it. So you're there and you're in it, but you're not of it, so that your body can express these woundings or these experiences, because of course there's lots of positives as well. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of these initiations were death rites, and it was, like in Egypt, swimming the Nile, and if you escape the crocodiles then you pass the test. And but also that it was, maybe you did die doing something and you were being brought back again and told do it again. And and you're like dying and living, and the kind of inherent trauma that this causes in the body. And so there can be layers for people. So we have to look at what's really present now, and and then work from there, and see what wants to show up, because we don't always have to know the whole story. And I think this can be the danger zone. People want to know, and oh, that I was this and I did this. But letting go of that is also very liberating, and thinking of it more that, okay, there's something that's stuck in my life, or it's just not quite flowing. And through working and releasing these soul contracts, which are often held in the womb, and in the throat as well, then it has a ripple effect into every aspect of our life. And I call it the root of the root, because people come and they might talk about what's happening in their life right now, and this can be work, relationships, family, everything. And when we get to the root of things, automatically everything else changes, because the soul contracts are the things that hold us and bind us to something that is relevant now, but at the same time it isn't, where it's keeping us from being really now and here. And so it can be totally life changing for people to work with this, and to just be able to let go of it. And this is how it has been for me as well.
Yeah, when I was doing the Melissa work, the crocodiles came up over and over again. I would often
Yeah.
dream of swimming with the crocodiles. And what's interesting is, from a shamanic point of view, the crocodile is the shaman that works without psychedelics. So I think that potentially that might be quite common to aromatherapists, to have that kind of that connection to, I know how to move things, and I'm not using ayahuasca and I'm not using peyote, but I'm just using very simple things, but I'm making big, like, psychological leaps, spiritual leaps. So yeah, the crocodiles is a big thing, really. Why Blue Lotus?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think that she came for me and drew me in. I Now when I look back, like sometimes photos appear in my Facebook memories or something, and it's me from 12 years ago sat next to a blue lotus pond, and at the time didn't even make the connection. I just thought, oh, this is beautiful, and I want a photo here. And I can see how all along this lotus theme has been with me, and as I said, with the dance. But it was really in lockdown, and I got stuck in England, because I'd gone back there to teach, and I was thinking, I don't know, what am I going to do? All my work got cancelled, and I was stuck. And I managed to get hold of some Blue Lotus tincture. So I thought, okay, I'll start working with this. It had been in my mind for a while. And literally from the first day, I started to have these very old, kind of Old Testament type dreams. And I was getting information that I didn't know that I knew, but I was able to Google, say, names and places, and find them from these very obscure Old Testament type stories. And at the same time, it was giving me pieces of a puzzle about my own ancestral healing journey. And I was able to understand more about this, and why certain things had happened in my life, and ways that I felt about things. And then this continued through 2020, and then later in the year I went to teach in Turkey. I had a Awaken Belly Dance training there. And then I had a very synchronistic meeting with a sheikh who teaches Sufi whirling from the Mevlana tradition. So I was able to take a training with him in a cave underground for 6 weeks in the very super traditional Mevlana style, and the lineage goes back to Rumi. So this kind of enhanced everything, all the information that was coming through, and it opened my body in a different way. And then from there, it was the beginning of 2021, and Egypt was the obvious place to come to because my visa was finishing in Turkey. So I came here and I thought, okay, let's see, and then met several people who grow the lotus here, and one of them in particular, Mona, who has the Together Temple in Cairo. We really connected and we started to hold ceremonies together, and combined with Awaken Belly Dance. And through this, we were able to also bring through a lot of different kinds of information between us. And then I spent 5 months traveling all around Egypt and going to all the temples, the known and lesser known ones, and also on the Mary Magdalene, sort of the when Jesus was a baby and they came into Egypt, and there's also a kind of pathway through Egypt. So me and my friend were hopping between all of them with our lotus in hand, and just seeing what we might find, what we might see. And because there were so few people traveling, we were alone in lots of these temples, even ones like Karnak, where there's thousands every day. There were maybe 10 of us there. So we were able to dance and do lots of things that you wouldn't maybe usually be able to do. And I felt like something was building in me, and then people were asking me, can you do this, can you do a ceremony? And so I started to do it more and more, and then it became an integral part of what I do. But originally it was not my plan. It was really for my own self-healing, because I've always had very crazy dreams and very strong nighttime experiences, and I wanted to see if it would help to settle that more for me. So that was the beginning, but I never imagined what would have come from it, and still now.
What do you feel that Lotus adds to your practice?
Um, Definitely opens more creativity within me. So when I'm going to do my newsletter, I sit down with a cup of Lotus tea and just think, right, time for the newsletter. Okay, what wants to come through? I created a series of dances called Dances of the Neteru, which is the sort of old name for the gods and goddesses. And I wanted to do these, they're choreographies, but I wanted to do them in a Gurdjieff style. I studied Gurdjieff movements when I lived in India, and I wanted to see if my body would move me to bring the movements through, and also in telling the stories of, say, Hathor or Ra or Nefertum. And this is exactly what happened. I would put the music on that I wanted to work with, and then my body started to make shapes, and I was studying the hieroglyphs and the different shapes that the women made in them, and thinking, how can I make this into a dance movement? And then my body was kind of automatically doing it, and I was able to bring these very powerful dances into being. And I've had lots of astral travel. I was always able to do this naturally as from when I was a child, but it became more defined and more, I think, more clarity, and more clarity just in my dreams generally, and also ancestral healing has been massive for me, and then the, like, our essence, or what people might call Kundalini, that I've had a big journey with this as well through my life, and I feel that I've learned even more how to integrate it and how to support others to work with their own energy as well. So that's off the top of my head. I think there's more, there's more and more, but it's a lot.
I could listen to you forever because you can tell that you're just so driven by spirit. It's just so lovely to watch. And So, because I think people are just going to be like, I want to do this. Good, good. We want you to come and do it with us, to learn about the blue lotus plant with me, and to do the healing with Katie. So, Katie, do you want to talk very quickly, without giving away too many secrets? What are the different sort of ancestral issues we're going to work through over the period of weeks? And just incidentally, I'm going to put the details in the description below so you can come and read about it properly and really think it out. But Katie, could you go through?
Mm. Yeah, as I said, I work intuitively, and as we'll be working over 9 months, I know that there'll be things coming up as we go, that will add into my initial idea and plan about it. But the main things to begin with is this iniquity, and this is what is downloaded into us when at conception. So if you think of the umbilical cord, it's connecting us from our belly button to our mum. This is like a hard drive that gets downloaded into with all the information of the ancestors. And again, what we might think of as gifts or curses. So say, yeah, we have information in the bloodline, which is psychic abilities or working with aromatherapy or knowledge of the sea, or it could be anything. This is going to come to us. But also, if we've got ancestors who have been involved in maybe secret societies or black magic, or even what they might have thought of as white magic, but maybe things got distorted. And if these like a common one is where people make a covenant to gain power, and they give permission for their bloodline to be used, and especially if the bloodline is a very sacred one. And I'm guessing people listening to this that you're part of these bloodlines because you wouldn't find me otherwise. And so we hold the original information, and of course this is very sought after. So where covenants have been made that we because also we kind of can be our ancestors as well, because often in these kind of bloodlines we come back again and again and again, and this can be sometimes as a way of wanting to bring healing to the bloodline, because maybe we've realized that something we've done has had a negative effect, but also it can be ancestors who want to keep the power, and so they want to keep coming back and continuing with an agenda that they might have. So this can mean that the women in the family, that their wombs have been given for hire, you could put it that way, that certain entities or certain spirits have been allowed to be born through the wombs in the bloodline. And I know this might sound quite strange to say all of this, but I've found it again and again. So it can be from different angles, but I guess as a sort of base is that, yeah, contracts that ancestors have made to gain power, but by doing that they've actually given the power away of the family line. And of course anybody from before and after has been affected by that, and we want to find how you can reclaim every part of yourself, and also not have to be the healer for everybody in the bloodline, because of course sensitive empathic beings have taken on these responsibilities to be the savior for their family or for the collective, and actually we don't need to do that. It's really about coming back to ourselves. So something around this.
I think also this onus. I have felt this onus in the past that I have to be here to do this thing, and who else is going to do that? And I think that you're quite right that to a certain extent that's quite grandiose, and it's actually not real in this lifetime. But we're remembering something that perhaps we promised to do in a former lifetime, and freeing myself from that was really powerful, because I was getting myself ill by just working so hard to try and sort of uncover all the B stuff, and to actually realize, this isn't all on your shoulders, because you do feel it, I think, if you're not careful.
Yeah, and as soon as any wounded ancestors who have passed on and they get the vibe that somebody's there processing and taking responsibility, of course they're going to kind of push more onto you, and then more and more are going to come. So I feel that it's really important that everybody takes responsibility for themselves, and this lightens the bloodline automatically, and it means that those souls can also move on in a more healthy way and more on to what their real and true soul path is. And we can also do the same. And life becomes so much easier because we're not taking on board everybody else's crap. We have enough crap of our own to look at, and it takes enough time to do the work for this. So we don't need to do it for everyone else.
Do you find that people have the same somatic triggers? So, the reason why I ask that is because when a lot of stuff's downloading from you astral project, I time travel, I move through times very easily. When I'm
Mhm.
going through a time where I am bringing a lot of that in, I start coughing, and some mornings I'll wake up like really choking because I'm trying to get something through. And if I sit and breathe and write, that's it, it's gone. And it's different to having a cough. It's a different thing. But presumably as well, people will see this manifesting in not only cough like throat stuff, but womb stuff.
Yeah, it can have a big effect on the menstruation cycle and also our fears as well. So many people come and they're afraid of their own power. And I see them making really amazing progress to a certain point. And then it's almost like something goes, oh, dangerous, danger zone. And and they suddenly say, oh, I don't know if I can do this, or like this has started to happen in my family. Like think like dramas will come up, and I see this again and again and again. And it really takes a lot of courage and bravery to work through this stuff, and it takes time. These things are from eons. It's not going to be an overnight thing. Like I started really consciously my personal journey when I was 15, so it's 31 years now, and I'm still, still things are still coming up, and I'm still getting more understanding. But I know that I really want to do that, and it's important for me for this lifetime to do it. So yeah, it often comes up as fear. I also have the coughing thing. For me, it's when I'm falling asleep and I think I'm trying to jump out of my body and go interdimensional traveling, and I get this funny tickly cough. And I realized a few years ago that there's me trying to jump out before my body's actually ready to be able to do that. And also when I come back in again as well, I often cough. And yeah, so and also it can show up some it kind of goes in both ways. It can be that people cough up gunky stuff or maybe even vomit. It's not usually food, it's usually kind of from the chest area, and they get this sometimes black or white gunge. And I feel that it's emotions that or traumas that have become manifest as gunky stuff, and it just needs to come out. And sometimes it can be very kind of orgasmic as well. It seems to be one end or the other, that as the energy's transmuting and moving through, it can, yeah, it can be that there's a lot of shaking and trauma released through this as well. And this can also show up as laughter, because of course when we laugh, our body really shakes and moves, and then yeah, screaming, crying, yeah, lots of noise.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I could talk about it forever, but we mustn't give away all our secrets, Katie. But one thing I want to ask is for people who are thinking they would like to do this work, and I'm so excited to meet our group of the future to do this. But what would you say the most important thing they must have to be successful in this work? Do they need to have Blue Lotus? Do they need to have dance? Do they have what's the most important thing?
Um, to show up. I think this is the the most important. Really, really show up and give yourself permission to go on a journey into yourself and don't have any expectations. I always say I expect everything and expect nothing. Everything's possible and see where that takes you. Because if we have these very set expectations or intentions, I feel that we're putting a cap on what actually might come. And if we can allow ourselves to really surrender into the process, it can take us to places beyond our imagination. So yeah, showing up and yeah, and being present with us. And you don't need any dance experience. You don't need anything, just yourself.
If somebody's nervous of their ability to dance, are we going to have them on camera or can they turn the cameras off?
You can turn the cameras off. It's nice if the cameras are on, but we can leave it open. And I would be the main visual, so you'd be able to see me more than anyone else. You could have the sound off, so if you want to scream and growl and make noises, then nobody's going to hear you. Again, you'll be hearing me. And and yeah, so you can be as private or open as you want. And of course we can chat and have a kind of a group where we can interact together. So then you can ask questions and the group can support each other too. And that's what I really love about doing these kind of groups. It becomes self-supporting and the insights are coming from everybody, because I think this is something that's very important to remember, that we've each got different information in our body, whether it's epigenetically or from our own lifetimes of experiences and the wisdoms that we hold. So it's not that I know everything and I've got all the answers and I'm the teacher. It's really a co-creation between all of us, and everybody is going to bring different parts to to this like collective wisdom. And and that it's allowing our bodies to remember everything we've forgotten to remember. That's the
I love that. Just a little bit of housekeeping then. So, in terms of Blue Lotus, are we thinking tea? Are we thinking essential oil, tincture? What are you thinking?
um I I would go with what you're drawn to, because they can all be as powerful as each other. And I think it's important, go with what you feel. And it might be that you're drawn to two of the different ways of maybe ingesting or using the perfume. Because of course the oil can be used as an anointing as well. So yeah, see what you feel.
I love it. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we go?
Um, yeah, just come and dance with us and let's see what alchemy we can create together. I feel that this year is full power time to step up and really it's time to to let go of all this old stuff and find and do it. What did we come here to do, and who did we come here to be? And we can discover this together.
I love that. And in a different part of my job, I've been studying the High Priestess card of the Rider Waite um, deck, and she sits between two pillars with lotus flowers on the top and pomegranates and the veil of death behind her. And I just thought that's so exciting to see. There she is. She's sitting in a place in front of the veil. There we go, Blue Lotus. So come and join us to do some soul retrieval, to explore your soul contracts with Sacred Dance and Blue Lotus.